Hi, thanks for coming on. Andy speaking, Friday, 3rd of October. Apologies, I had COVID last week. Over it now. It wasn't a bad one. And the week before I was moving, so I'm back in Bournemouth now full time. And the videos will be every week from now on. Members' bet's still been going out as usual. Just been slack on the videos. It's been very hard finding time. Right, what I'm going to do is I'm covering Scotland today, and I'll give you the weekly double and the weekly treble. We'll have that every week from now on. But I'm going to be selective about what I cover from Leagues 1 and 2 because, as one of the members said to me, that it was obvious what the members' bets were by the ratings and the value, etc., etc. And I totally get that. So I won't be covering all of it. I've said this before, but what I am going to do is I'm going to cover all the Premier League. I hate the Premier League, I do. I think it's a theatrical playground for overpaid tarts to roll over and over, and people buy strikers for 70 million that can't hit a barn door from 2 feet. Just on talking of Manchester United, Amorim will be sacked in November because once he's been there a year, his release clause fee drops. So they'll keep him for another month and then fire him once he's been there a year. I think you'll find they'll appoint Gareth Southgate. Right, let's get on with it. As I say, we're going to cover Scotland. I don't think it's the best coupon in the world, as you'll see, but there's a bit of value about. Right, Dundee United, Livingston, 50, 27, 23. I think these prices are pretty much accurate. Dundee United won once at home. They've beaten Aberdeen, lost to Hearts, lost to Kilmarnock. I think the Kilmarnock performance was awful. Livingston on the road, lost at Celtic, lost at Dundee, drawn at Kilmarnock, drawn at Aberdeen. I thought that Livingston's form wasn't the worst, I have to say, but the ratings dictate where the bet is. And just one thing on the ratings, a couple of people watched the videos, clearly haven't seen it before, and said, oh, all the stuff, loads of the stuff with the blue stuff doesn't win. Right, listen, let me tell you straight away, would I back that? Absolutely not in a million years. It is all about how much is in there in relation to that. That's all I'm interested in. Okay? Now, I would back that. It doesn't necessarily mean I'd give it out to members because I know in the long term, 1 in 4 bets are going to win at 4 to 1. So for every £4 I put down, I'm going to get 5 back. You see what I mean? So I'm making 25% on my money. And I know that will always happen. I don't give them as members bets because the losing runs, out of every 100 bets, 75 are going to lose. You could have a losing run of 60. It doesn't bother me, but it would bother my members. And it's like, here, there's a 62% chance that bet doesn't win. Okay? And that isn't enough in relation to that. That is. It doesn't make it a members bet. It's all about how you interpret how much value compared to a rating. I think anything at 20% would be my lowest where I go for a point, okay? Because that's a sort of break-even point. So at 20%, you want more than 1, okay? You see what I mean? Kilmarnock St Mirren, 38, 24, 38. Very hard game to assess. Killie have had 1 win all season away at Dundee United. They've drawn 4 and lost 1. The only loss was a 2-1 home defeat to Celtic. So I don't think that's the worst form in the world, I have to say. St Mirren sit 3rd in the table. Their only loss was a 1-0 defeat away at Celtic. And just to say, I think Russell Martin's days are numbered at Rangers. I don't think you need to be Einstein to work that one out. I don't think it will be Steven Gerrard either. There was another name that's put to me. I forget who it is. Sorry about that. But I think he's favourite. It's not Gerrard. It's somebody else. I can't remember who. But I know that they think they've made a right mess appointing Russell Martin, which they have. Tough game to assess that. If I had to bet, I would just play Killie purely because of the value point of view, but it's not a game that interests me. Hearts Hibernian, 58, 26, 16. The Edinburgh Derby, I can only see one winner here. Hearts, I mean, as I said at the start of the season, I thought they would go extremely well under Derek McInnes. I didn't foresee them being 9 points clear of Rangers come the first weekend's football in October. That's incredible. And that isn't just Rangers' shortcomings. That's Hearts. I mean, they've won 5, drawn 1. The only draw was a home draw against Motherwell. I think they'll win this against Hibs. Hibs, I thought Hibs started off well, and then we were on them against Kilmarnock. They were 2 up within 27 minutes, went on to draw the game. Now they've drawn 5 on the spin. 1-1, 3-3, 2-2, another 2-2 and 0-0. So they're proving hard to beat, but I think this is going to be different against Hearts. I think Hearts will have their number. I really do. Aberdeen, it's abysmal. Played 6, lost 5, not even scored a goal. They've not even scored a goal, and they're putting 8-11 by the bookmakers. I mean, come on. I know Dundee are no great shakes, but at least they found the net on more than one occasion this season. They've actually got a win to their name. They've drawn at Rangers, drawn at Killie. Their only defeat on the road was a 1-0 doing at St Mirren. I think they're capable of winning this game or getting something from it at least. Aberdeen, 8-11 is an absolute insult. I mean, that should never be odds on in a million years. Yes, most likely it's winners. Odds on, never. Celtic Motherwell, 75-18-7. Things aren't plain sailing at Celtic, I have to say. 2-1 win in the last 3. That was a 2-1 win at Killie. 0-0 at Rangers, who are awful, and 0-0 at home to Hibs. Not convinced with Celtic. Not convinced by the performance the other night against Braga either. I think there's some underlying problem with both big Glasgow clubs this season. Motherwell are unbeaten. They're another side. They've got pretty much the same record as Hibernian, except they drew their first 5 and won their last game against Aberdeen. So Motherwell are proving tough to beat. Do you know what, right? When I worked this out, I was hoping that I was going to get a bigger figure on this, but I would have backed Motherwell myself. Had that been any bigger than that, I would have had a few quid on that, because they're no 14-1 shots. And, Celtic played Thursday night. There's certainly no good things for this. And, it's one of those games, I don't know, Motherwell might get an early goal, in which that price will contract hugely. Falkirk Rangers, 22-28-50. Never in a million years did I think I would be giving Falkirk a rating of 22% at home to Rangers. But they've drawn with Dundee United, drawn with Hibs. They've only lost here to St Mirren. Now, Rangers on the road, they've won at Livingston, drawn at St Mirren, drawn at Motherwell. To their credit, they've only lost one game, and that was against Hearts. But to win one of your first 6 matches when manager of Rangers, that's a sackable offence. I'm surprised he's still in the job. I really, really am. I don't know. As I'm speaking now, he could be being fired this very second, but he's got no clue. And the job's way, way too big for him. Best bet in this division has to be Dundee, doesn't it? There's a point there at 25% against a team who have yet to find the net that are putting odds on. I don't care whether Aberdeen win, lose or draw. If you're backing a side at 8-11 that has not scored a goal and we're in October, you need to go and get your brain seen to. Right, let's go on to the Championship. Airdrie Morton. Airdrie, bottom of the league, yet to win. To their credit, they've only lost once at home, and that was at home to St Johnstone, who are way ahead at the top. They've drawn with Wraith, drawn with Queen's Park, drawn with Ross. So you wouldn't necessarily say that they're in for hiding tomorrow from Morton. Morton on the road have played 4, drawn 4. So, 7 of the 8 games between home and away have been draws. So if you're doing the football pools this weekend, I'd be pretty confident that that would be one of your banker draws. Dunfermline, Queen's Park. Do you know what? I had high hopes for Dunfermline. I'm going to cut them a bit of slack for the last 3 games, only slightly, because it was St Johnstone away, Ayr at home, Partick. Probably is that the 3 top sides, possibly. So I am going to cut them a bit of slack for that. Prior to those 3 defeats, they routed Arbroath at Arbroath 5-0. So, they're not the worst side in the world, Dunfermline. Queen's Park at home have lost to St Johnstone, Partick, Arbroath drawn with Morton. On the road, they've won at Ross, who are second bottom, drawn the other 3. I think Dunfermline ought to win this, but that's not enough for me to get involved. But just ignore their current form. I think, they've bumped into the three top sides for my money. Partick Arbroath, 60, 24, 16. I think they're too short at 4-7. They've beaten Wraith here by the odd goal, Airdrie by the odd goal, and drew with Morton 1-1. So it's not like they're routing teams. They got a 5-1 doing at St Johnstone, which certainly put them in their place. Arbroath on the road have won at Queen's Park and Ross, who are two of the bottom three. Their other two results on the road, they got done at St Johnstone 3-0 and 3-0 at Wraith. St Johnstone a third, Wraith a third, Partick are second. Draw your own conclusions there. Ross, it's a mess, isn't it? It's an absolute mess. I thought the change of manager would change results. It hasn't. They've lost 4 from 4 at Dingwall. St Johnstone, I get, because they're levels ahead of everyone in this league. Partick 3-1, no. Arbroath at home, no. Queen's Park at home, no. All of those sides have done them at Dingwall. Yes, the tide is going to turn. It will. They'll start winning, but tomorrow against Wraith have only lost once on the road at Partick. That was by the odd goal. They've won at Ayr, Morton, drawn at Airdrie. If I had to bet in this game, I'd want to be with Wraith. When I rated this game up, I was quite excited because I thought, Wraith. I had Wraith in at favourites. I was expecting a major sort of overreaction as ever from the bookmakers. I was hoping they were going to have Ross in at sort of 11-8 or something ridiculous like that, and we were going to be able to pile into Wraith, but sadly it's not the case. I think bookmakers are sharing the same view as me about Ross. St Johnstone Ayr, 60, 24, 16. It's been nigh on perfect, 7 wins from 8. I did say at the start of the season they were the team to be on, and we're on them. I wouldn't want to change that bet at all. 60, 24, 16. We've got them in at 4-6 or 8-11. They've beaten Partick here 5-1, who are second. Arbroath who are 4-3-0. Dunfermline who are 6-2-1. They've won at Wraith 2-0, who are third. Drawn here with Morton. They're pretty faultless, St Johnstone. Ayr on the road, to their credit, are unbeaten, but drawn at Arbroath and Morton, won at Dunfermline 1-0. They have won the last 2. I do think that Neil Lennon is starting to get it right there. And as I did say at the start of the season, I don't think they'll be overly far away come the end. Best bet in this division, it's obvious, St Johnstone. Right, League 1, East Fife Cove, 44, 28, 28. And if you look down here, all the value is with every single away side. Right, East Fife at Methil, beating Queen of the South and Kelty, lost at home to Alloa, drawn with Montrose. Not the worst home record, I have to say, but I still don't think it warrants them being 19-20. Cove, at bottom of the table, they look like the worst side in the division. I look at that squad, and it's still, I'd still say it's the 6th, 5th, 6th, 7th best squad in this division. It's better than East Fife's. Surely they're going to start picking up results soon. But they are cut adrift. That would be the worry there. Hamilton, Inverness, 21-24, 55. Hamilton second, 7 points. They're not 7 points behind, are they? Because I'm looking at the table without the deduction. They've beaten Steny here, Montrose, lost at home to East Fife, drawn with Cove. Bit of a patchy record, isn't it? East Fife on the road, won 4 from 4, not shipped a goal. 3-0, 1-0, 2-0, 2-0, flawless. I think they'll win tomorrow. We think they should be 4-5. They're evens. They're way ahead in this division. The league's over, trust me. I said at the start of the season, I said Inverness would rout this division. St Johnstone and East Kilbride. East Kilbride I've got a slight concern with. My wallet's twitching over that, but we'll come to that. Kelty against Peterhead, 21-27, 52. There's a couple of ways of looking at Kelty's home form. You can say it's awful. They've lost all 3 and not scored a goal, but they've lost all 3 to Inverness, Hamilton and Stenhousemuir, who are the top 3 sides. They've been better away from home. They've won at Montrose Cove. I think they should be out at 4-1 though for this. Peterhead have lost every game on the road. But to be fair to them, they've been tough ones, haven't they? Inverness, Queen of the South, Stenhousemuir and Montrose. At home, they've won 3, drawn 1. There's a bit in Peterhead. We actually think they should be 10-11 for this, but don't. That's one of those bets. That's not one of those bets, but that's one of those scenarios where their poor form is giving that an uplift. That isn't just all about Peterhead. A lot of that is their awful situation. So, I do like to flag that up to people. Whereas that, you see, that's them. That's all down to them. This is down to them, and a hell of a lot of a mix in there from Kelty. Right, Stenhousemuir against Montrose, 40-24-36. They've beaten Petehead and Cove at home, two of the bottom three. They lost to Alloa, drew with East Fife and Queen of the South. Montrose are in form. They've really turned a corner. They've won 3 of the last 4 and only 1 defeat in the last 6. They did win at Alloa the other week, which was a decent result. I think this is tougher. I think Steny are rightfully favourites, but only just. I don't think they're good things. Queen of the South against Alloa, 42-26-32. Again, I think 21-20 is awfully short for Queen of the South. They've won 3 games against Petehead, Kelty and Cove, the bottom 3. Against teams 6th and above, their record reads 0-1-4. Alloa are 4th in the table. They've gone off the boil slightly, Alloa. They did start well, but they've only won 1 of the last 4. They're up to winning this tomorrow. Make no doubt about that. But 0.3 at 32% isn't enough. Best bet in this division, Inverness by an absolute mile. Right, let's move on. League 2. And again, as you can see, all the values were the away sides. Clyde East Kilbride, 36-24-40. There's been a raft of money for Clyde, and I do see it. I have to say, 12 goals in the last 3. 1 defeat in the last 7. They have really, really turned a corner. I fancied them for this tomorrow, but ratings dictate it. East Kilbride, no win in the last 3. Edinburgh away, a draw, I get that. Dunbar at home, I don't get that. A 3-1 defeat at Annan, I don't get that either. The squad they've got, they should be performing a heck of a lot better than this. This is a borderline championship squad, what East Kilbride have got. Make no mistake about that. They should be winning every single match here. You look what Inverness are doing in League 1. East Kilbride should be doing that and more in League 2. Now, what of it? Is it 7 from 8 games Inverness have won? East Kilbride should really have won 8 from 8 because they are absolute head and shoulders on paper above everyone else in this league. And I know football's played on grass, not paper, but the fact of the matter is they are massively underperforming. There's 0.3 at 40%, which would normally be a bet for me. I probably will have to bet it, but the trust element for me isn't there at the moment. I've got to say, the defeat at Annan, the other thing I don't like, against the top 5, their record reads 0-2-1. That's a concern for me. That reminds me, that's a flat track bully. That's got the makings of that. Okay, putting 5 and 6 and routing sides in the bottom section, but when it comes to teams that give it your back, they shrink. They need a kick up the backside of East Kilbride. They really do, because I tell you, if this squad was in the Championship and managed by, I forget his name, who's ever managed in Inverness, they'd be probably 2nd or 3rd in League 1. And here they are 2nd in League 2. They're underperforming. They need a rocket. They can win this tomorrow, but I wanted to back Clyde, but obviously I can't with how the figures have come out. That's where personal involvement gets it wrong for you. Right, Elgin Forfar, 42-25-33. As said for many, many years, when I was writing for the paper and on here, Elgin are staunch, hard team to beat at Borough Briggs. But this season they've lost 3 from 4. They've beat Stirling 3-0. Can they beat Forfar tomorrow? Forfar is 0-2-2 on the road. And Forfar's only wins have been against 3 of the bottom 4 at home. So, yes, I mean, Elgin can win this. I don't think I wouldn't want to be back in Forfar. Spartans Edinburgh 50-24-26. Spartans have played better than I foresaw. They've had a couple of, I think they've had 4 wins by the odd goal, and that's something that you can't keep getting away with in football. They're 2-0-2 at home. They've been turned over here by Stirling and Dunbar, and I think Edinburgh are better than both of those. I mean, by rights, Edinburgh should be 5th in the table, and they're 3-0-1 on the road. The only loss was against Clyde, and as I said to you, that Clyde are in absolutely awesome nick at the moment. And I think Clyde will do East Kilbride tomorrow. Edinburgh 11-4. I thought, I knew we weren't going to get to bet them. I was hoping, to back them, but there's not enough there. But I would want to be with Edinburgh in this game. Any team that's won 3 from 4, against a team who's 2-0-2, Spartans shouldn't be odds on. Evens is their price. Stirling Dumbarton 37-24-39. Stirling are all over the place. Lost away at Elgin, won away at Spartans, who are top. You just trying to predict Stirling is an absolute impossibility. It is just such a mishmash of results. It's got the Morton Queen of the South vibe this season. Dumbarton on the road have been really good. They've played 4, they've won 3. They've won at Spartans, Forfar and Annan. They've drawn at East Kilbride. They should win this tomorrow. The problem is there's only 0.1 in it, which is absolutely so frustrating. Because I say, when I worked this out in my head, I thought all Stirling will be favourites for this. And I thought we might. Well, I was hoping we might get some 2-1 or something, but we're not getting that. We're getting 8-5, about a 6-4. So it's not bloody worth it, sadly. Right, Stranraer Annan, then we'll do the weekly double. Stranraer picked up their first win last time out against third place Dumbarton. See, it doesn't make any sense, does it? Home to Annan. They're 0-2-2 at home. They've drawn with Clyde and Elgin, lost to Edinburgh and Spartans. I don't think that's the worst home form, really. I really don't. I'll tell you for why. I think Edinburgh and Spartans are 2 of the top 3. Clyde, are they sort of in that top 3 or are they 4th best? And Elgin, you can always forgive a team a bad result. So if you want to take that view of the form, and that's the view I take of Stranraer's form, they've lost to 2 of the best 3 and drawn to the 4th best. I think that's okay, and they drew with Elgin 1-1. I don't think that's the worst home form in the world, I really don't. Annan are 0-2-2 on the road. They've been chinned at Forfar and Spartans, drawn at Edinburgh and Stirling. There's 0.25 in them at 39%, which isn't the worst, I have to say, but I wouldn't want to back it. I've got a sneaky feeling Stranraer might just win this, but it's up to you. Best bet in the division... you probably have to say I'm not. Do you know what? I don't fancy. I'd have to say that purely on figures, taking emotions and personal input out of it. 0.3 at 40% is a good bet. 0.25 at 39% is an okay bet. That's not an okay bet. That's not the worst, but not quite enough. East Kilbride's the best bet in the division, but my personal feeling is Clyde will win. And that's why I don't get involved personally in this. The figures does the work. Right, let's get back on this, the weekly double. We've only done one. Inverness and East Kilbride, wasn't it? I think East Kilbride won Inverness. That was our only bloody defeat. This weekend, Newcastle and Doncaster 1.81 to Hills with Hills. So it's all a shade over 7-4. Bordering 15-8. Doncaster at home to Burton, and Newcastle are at home to Forest. Ange, I think, I'm pretty certain he's going to be on the way out. Weekly treble: Newcastle, Doncaster, and Napoli to beat Genoa. I think that game's Sunday night. So Newcastle at home to beat Forest, Doncaster to beat Burton, and Napoli to beat Genoa. 3.10 with Betway, so a shade over 3-1. That's it, guys. Next week, as I say, we'll do all of Scotland. We'll do the Premier League as well. We're going to cover that every week, and I'm going to do a selection, only a selection from the Championship, a selection from League One, and a selection from League Two. That's it. Good to be back. Back next Friday. Bye for now.